The most encouraging sign from Friday night at Kansas, the Tar Heels aren't even close to hitting their ceiling yet.
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Wednesday, November 13th, 2024. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Shea, joined by our good buddy, Coach Pat Kilby, who's back with us after a one-week hiatus. Life comes up sometimes, and we got to always recognize that that's important. So, Pat, glad to have you back with us this week, buddy. Folks, you're joining us at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We want to very sincerely thank you for making us your first listen or watch today to kickstart your day, learn about the Tar Heels, and have a great conversation together. Man, what a great time. Special shout out to all the everydayers joining us, all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, and of course, our great Locked On Tar Heels insiders. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Let's get right into this thing. Coach Pat Kilby, since he didn't get to be with us last week, hasn't actually been able to give us any thoughts or observations on the Tar Heels since they played Elon or Kansas. So we're going to look at that a little bit today. Some of that, in fact, I asked him like, hey, give me a couple big ticket things that you've been observing so far that you want to talk about. So we're going to look at how can Carolina continue to play inside out, even with different personnel now? How can Carolina be more intentional with utilizing Jalen Washington's offensive skill set and get him going? But Pat, where we first want to get to is looking at, yes, Carolina, I think, did more than either of us expected on Friday night. I got no problem admitting that. I don't think you do either. But even still, Pack, that said, I don't think Carolina has even sniffed yet their ceiling this season. What about you?
Absolutely not. You know, you look at Kansas and you go, wow, I mean, they're a really good basketball team, but they're so much closer to their ceiling right now than we are. And, you know, I think Kansas has room to improve for sure, but not much. You know, I mean, they kind of are who they are. I'm sure they'll develop some chemistry over time, but they're kind of who they are. But you look at Carolina and you go, wow, there's a lot of new and moving pieces here. You know, you got Jalen Washington coming in at the 5, and he's never shouldered a load for Carolina quite like he's doing now. You got Seth, who's been a role player, becoming a very important player now. We've got young guys coming off the bench like Ian and Drake, and you look at our team and you go, man, I mean, we competed better than, you know, maybe most of us thought we would, but we're not even close to who we're going to be in February right now. And I just think that we have so much more room to improve. And the thing is like it should be encouraging, you know, the fact that we were had our chances to win in Allen Fieldhouse, which is very tough to do. And we know that we've got so much improvement to be made, and that's going to be had. It's definitely an encouragement when you look at that. And so, and I think it's tough. I mean, it's tough to accept a loss, you know, we don't want to,
especially because of what a high value non-conference win that would be from a resume standpoint.
Right. Yeah. And at Carolina, you don't really do,
moral victories.
Yeah. But, you know, it's just like there's a lot to be encouraged about, you know, and I think that the team has a very high ceiling, and we're not even close to reaching it right now. So I feel good about the direction we're headed.
Yeah, it's funny, Pack, and I love the way you put some of that, because one of the things you and I talked a bit about this offseason was how many question marks there were with Carolina and just not knowing what those question marks were going to do. And you're starting to see some of that already, like Seth Trimble stepping into a huge role for this team, even bigger than we expected. We've joked so many times about after our preview of Seth Trimble, how we didn't put him in the starting lineup. And you and Mama Trimble had some nice words after that, and we've laughed with her about it, man. I love it. It's so fun. Like, I love being dead wrong, especially when it means good things for the Tar Heels, man. That's great. But Pack, one of the big things that actually wasn't a question mark for me coming into the season that now we've got some concern about, and is part of Carolina not reaching their ceiling yet, that I want to specifically hone in on here, is Cade Tyson. so far in this season, Cade, there's a variety of reasons why. I want to ask you what you think it is, but just really hasn't been able to get settled in any sort of way. So far, he's played a total of 18 minutes, and like 17 of those were Elon, and then like 63 seconds against Kansas. And just has hit one shot, a 2-pointer, hasn't made a 3 yet, and frankly just looks a little frazzled out there. So Pack, before I ask you the reasons and why you think it is, on a like meter of nothing burger to a hamburger that's overcooked and unedible on the bad on like the bad side of it, no, let's make it easier. A 1 to 10 on like a panic meter. Where are you at 2 games into this season with Cade Tyson?
I'm kind of wrestling with that because part of me is very concerned. Then the other part of me realizes, hey, we are only 2 games into this. Maybe I need to pump the brakes on that a little bit. But I'm going to go ahead and give it a 7. Okay. And I'll kind of dive into that. I'm worried about it. And the reason I'm worried about it has nothing to do with shot making. Like, that's the thing. Like, if he was just in a shooting slump, then I would be like, hey, you know what?
Shooters go through that all the time.
Right. I always say water finds its level, right? Like, it's going to be uneven, but it's going to level back out eventually. But the concern for me is, when I was picturing Cade, I was not only picturing him as a shot maker, but kind of somebody like Brady, that's going to be savvy and move off the ball really well and just bring some energy, bring some fire, bring some experience to the table. And then when I watch him out there, I feel like he looks really lethargic and he just doesn't really have a lot of energy, and he's not playing with passion, and he's not really getting after it defensively. And I'm just not seeing him do some of the like little intangible things. And that's what concerns me. And the thing is like, I don't know why he's feeling that way. If he's feeling frustrated that he's not hitting shots or what, but if that's the reason, then that's even more concerning, right? Because all shooters that have played basketball know this. When you're not hitting shots, what can you contribute to the team that's going to keep you on the floor? And right now, it's nothing. And that's why he only played 1 minute and 3 seconds against Kansas. He comes on the floor, he gives up a 3 because he didn't guard the screen correctly, and Hubert said, you know what, come sit down. and that's the thing is, like, I agree with Hubert, and I'm glad he did it, because maybe it sends a message of, if you're not hitting shots, you still got to bring some value to our team. And the flip side of that is whenever you stop focusing on hitting shots and you just start focusing on playing basketball and making winning plays for your team, the shooting part takes care of itself. And I think Cade maybe needs to pick up on that and not focus so much on that, but just focus on, hey, how can I help North Carolina win basketball games? Yeah. And if you do that, that's going to be great for us. Because like I did say, we are only 2 games into this season.
Right.
Plenty of time left for him to figure it out. But I am concerned for sure.
Yeah. I think that's all valid and well said, Pack. Like, it would be silly for us to not have some level of concern. And I didn't have any coming into the season, even through the exhibition games, because he started like shot out of a cannon his freshman year at Belmont. Like, I think, let me look back. I think like his first 2 games were like 18 points and 18 points to start his career. Like, 5 straight games with 14 or more points his freshman year at Belmont. And so I was like, yeah, he's going to do that. And it's not even sniffed that. It's not touched it. And at least at some level, Pack, it feels like he's overthinking. It feels like he's not just letting his instincts take over. And the instincts are great with Cade Tyson. He's a phenomenal basketball player. And as you said, water finds its level. I fully expect him to get back to that once he settles in and figures it out. But you don't just suddenly forget how to shoot over 40% from 3 after doing it for a couple years. You don't just suddenly forget how to make a bunch of 2s, which he's also done. And so, it's like there has to be a level of concern. But at the end of the day, I do think it works out. And I do think he finds his way. And so I would probably put it at like a 5 or a 6 right now. Something I'm specifically looking though for is 2 days from now, Carolina plays American, and American does not project to be a great team. At Ken Palm right now, they're ranked 239th in the nation. They are 1-2, having lost to LaSalle and Siena, who are both ranked outside the top 200. And so it's like big opportunity there. They play a little slower from a tempo standpoint outside the top 300. And so maybe that's a chance for him to just kind of find his way in a little more slowly and just get him some minutes. This is a game where I feel like even if he's struggling a little bit, you can allow him a little bit of margin and leeway to keep figuring things out. So, Pac, I know we had said, we feel like Carolina is not even to their ceiling remotely yet. There are other reasons for that, but that was one I know we specifically wanted to hone in on today's show. Is there anything else, though, about Cade or about that ceiling you want to say before we move on to some inside-out basketball?
Yeah, I did want to touch on one thing about Cade really quick, and it's something I just want us to focus on, kind of pay attention to. I'm curious to see his response because to me, like from a coach's perspective, coach played him 1 minute and 3 seconds, and he said, you know what, I don't like it, come sit down. And I think some people took that as, oh, man, even Hubert Davis is concerned about Cade, so much so that he wants him to sit on the bench the rest of the game. But what it really was a challenge. And we're going to see how Cade responds to that over the next couple of games. And I think that's going to tell us a lot about what we can expect moving forward.
Yeah.
I'm going to respond to it. And that's not to say he's going to play perfect, but he's going to play harder and more competitively and with more fire than he has. And if he does that, then he's going to be fine. But if he pouts about it and lets that be less of a challenge and more of a confidence issue, then there could be reason for concern. So we definitely need to keep an eye on him these next couple of games because I'm curious how he responds to that challenge.
And part of it is like the level at which I wish he had been able to get more minutes in this game specifically is so we could have had that experience in the environment of Allen Fieldhouse to help prepare for moments like Cameron Indoor Stadium and stuff like that. Because there's not going to be many other environments like that because like you get Alabama at home and other stuff like that. So I think that's the one bummer in that for me. In
some ways, maybe that challenges him more or inspires him more. Like, hey, you know what? The last time I played in an environment like this went awful. I'm going to make sure that I get after it and that doesn't happen again. So that could be a positive. But yes, I definitely, that's just maybe a different angle to look at.
No, I love it. I think I hear what you're saying and I can get behind that as well. All right, guys. One of the things that's been true of Carolina historically is that they play inside out, establish the run first, and then you can throw deep balls, get the ball into the paint, and then start lighting it up from outside. I know Carolina's personnel looks different now, but there's still a way in which they can achieve that. What's that look like? We'll talk about it in just a second. Right after I tell you about Game Time. Look, college basketball season is here, and there's absolutely nothing better than the atmosphere of a game like the one we were just talking about Friday night in Allen Fieldhouse. Good grief. What a great college basketball environment. And you just never know what's going to happen in a game like that. And so you got to be there. You got to experience it. And thankfully, if you want to get in on that this season, there's a ticketing app called Game Time that helps you get great tickets at a great price. And great news for this year when you're getting tickets, Game Time has a new feature. It's called Game Time Picks that has curation to help make it easier to save more on sports. But not only that, they got tickets for all sorts of events, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. So whether it's Game Time ticket coverage, the lowest price guarantee, or the panoramic views from the seat right there in the app, Game Time's got you covered. Pat Kilby, how about that Alabama game I just mentioned where Carolina's hosting Alabama in the ACC-SEC Challenge on December the 4th? Tickets right now you can get upstairs for as low as $88. I feel like that's a steal for a game of this magnitude. So go check that out. Obviously, if you want to get into the lower bowl, considerably more. But man, get in the building. Go experience this game in what's going to be a sold-out Smith Center going crazy in a midweek game. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Terms apply. Download the Game Time app today. What time is it? Game time. Pack, as we were preparing our content for today's show, one of the things I asked you is, hey, my man, you have not yet had an opportunity to unpack what you've been seeing and some big ticket things from Carolina through the first couple games. And the first one you mentioned to me was, I know that Armando Bacot is not in the post, but I still want to see Carolina play inside out. Pack, would you unpack that and explain for us what you mean?
Yeah. So in the past, inside out for us has looked, for the last 5 years, it's looked like get the ball to the paint, get the ball to Armando Bacot, and then let's see what he can do. If he's isolated, he's going to make a move, he's going to go score. If he scores or teams respect him, there's going to be doubles, it's going to collapse the defense, and then we play from the inside out. Well, now the recipe looks a little different, right? I mean, we don't have an Armando. We have Jaylen, who's a great scorer. He's just not a back to the basket scorer necessarily. So the recipe, kind of stays the same, but we just have to cook it up a little bit differently. And that looks like for us, the guards need to be having the mentality of playing from the inside out, getting paint touches, collapsing defenses, and then, spraying that ball to the perimeter and getting some more efficient catch and shoot threes from the perimeter. And, my concern is, and I wondered about this going into the season, would we kind of approach it like, hey, let's fire up threes. Let's take advantage of our ability to shoot and play from the outside in. And the problem with that is that a lot of times when you do that, you don't get as consistent 3-point looks, as you would. So I think it's really important for us to establish ourselves in the paint through paint touches, with our guard play, and then spraying the ball to the perimeter and getting more efficient looks versus settling and then trying to attack after that, and so I just think we're not getting quite as efficient looks as we could, and we're kind of relying a little bit too much on the fact that we do have the ability to shoot the ball. We also have the ability to get to the paint and get efficient looks there, collapse defenses, make defenses respect that, and create even better looks for ourselves. And I think, the best example I have of that is the second half against Kansas. I thought early, and Kansas is great defensively, Bill Self's teams always are, but early I thought we settled a lot and took some quick shots, took some shots that I didn't think were really characteristic of us. And in the second half, I thought we were a lot more intentional about being aggressive, about being assertive, about pushing the ball down the court and kind of getting the looks that we wanted and getting to the paint, playing from the inside out. And we hit some shots. And I know, a lot of people always say, well, the ball or everything looks better when the ball goes in the basket. But I mean, there's a reason the ball's going in the basket. You've got to create good looks for yourself. And for us, the recipe kind of, like I said, it stays the same. We just have to cook it up differently. We have to get paint touches and play from the inside out. And I really hope that's something we see more of moving forward.
Yeah. And because it's not like we're saying, let's force one of these guys that's not used to being a back to the basket player to go do that, because that's how you score from the inside out. It's no. We can still start inside out in attack mode. It just looks differently where that inside attack is coming from. And that comes from penetration and pick and roll action and doing whatever you got to do to get downhill to the rim. And as you were talking, Pack, something else I thought about with that, one of the staples of what Carolina has been able to do when they attack from the inside out historically with a big man is get opposing big men into foul trouble, kind of what the Jayhawks did to us in the first half on Friday night, where every big man but James Brown had 2 or more fouls in that first half. But Carolina can still do that. If guards or whomever's getting to the rim, force those big men to make a business decision and olay or, foul you, or maybe you get blocked a couple times, whatever. I don't care, but I'm with you. I want to see the Tar Heels attacking and finish, because Carolina has, I just talked about this on yesterday's show, has so many capable finishers at the rim, whether it's the guards or some of the other wings or whatever it is. And so don't be afraid of that. And I know I get it. Like in these first 2 games, you had a 7'4" guy in Van Komen from Elon and Hunter Dickinson, who's 7'1". So there's some trepidation there, but that's not going to be every game. And even when it is, who cares if you get blocked a couple times? Just keep getting in there and doing it. What does that eventually do, Pack? Sucks in the defense. Boom. Elliot Cadeau's wide open. Seth Trimble's wide open. Ian Jack, whoever it is, because now they got to start drawing in on that, and that sets up a whole new wrinkle.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you bring up a great point about attacking. We always need to be in attack mode because we shoot from the free throw line so well. Like, this team is a good free throw shooting team. Why would we ever abandon being in attack mode or think about settling? And sometimes I still, I'm not saying we do this all the time, but I think we could be more assertive and be intentional about that. And so I hope to see that more because, like you said, it benefits everything. It's potential foul trouble for their bigs. It's free throw attempts for us. It's collapsing defenses. It's potential finishes for us because, like you mentioned, we have great finishers. And it's creating inside-out catch-and-shoot shots from the perimeter, which is the best shot in basketball. So, other than a layup or a free throw. So, I just think we benefit from being aggressive more.
And what that free throw discussion you just had, what that does is let's just recognize and accept the fact that with North Carolina shooting more, doing that, there are going to be lulls. There are going to be dry spells, whether it's game long, like we saw from the combo of Elliot and RJ, and to a lesser degree, Seth. He was 4 of 10 from the field. But, I forget what RJ and Elliot were combined, but it was low. And I think 1 of 10 from 3. But you know what? All 3 of those guys did so phenomenally well. They were like a combined 25 of 27 from the free throw line. And as you said, that's where you can make some money. And so even when you got those dry spells, if you're in attack mode like you're talking about, you're going to still make a killing and live at the free throw line. So knowing where your bread is buttered in that way is a great thing. And Pack, as you and I always say, that's going to make that kitten purr.
That's right.
Gosh. Okay. And anything else on this inside out conversation before we move along to the other thing that you wanted to talk about today?
No, I don't have anything else.
Okay, folks. So as we think about inside out, it's funny because Jalen Washington is not a traditional back to the basket sort of big, but he does have a unique skill set. And we're not so sure that Carolina is utilizing that yet to its fullest potential. How can they? Pack and I are going to have that discussion to close out the show. And we'll do that right after I tell you about FanDuel. Folks, get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. Because right now, new customers, you can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if that first bet wins. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything. You need to place live bets all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check it out the live stats. You can check play-by-play, all of that on the exact same page where you place your bets. Pack, how about some ACC regular season champion odds? Right now, Duke is the heavy favorite at FanDuel -105. Tar Heels second at +380, followed by Clemson and Wake at +1200, Miami at +1600, and then Pitt rounding out that top 6 at +1900. So whether it's that or RJ Davis and the Wooden Award odds or whatever else, man, some great odds at FanDuel. Go check it out right now at FanDuel.com. Again, you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. So never waste a hunch and go make every moment more at FanDuel.com, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Pack, in some ways, this final conversation that we're going to have today gets back to our initial conversation about Carolina not really yet reaching their ceiling. One of the other ways they can do that is it feels like right now Carolina has already done at least a pretty good job of figuring out how to utilize the very unique trio that is Elliot, Seth, and RJ. And I think that thing is going to be rolling season long and is probably the biggest feather in the cap of Carolina just being devastating offensively to other teams. But while that's going to be great, and while we don't need the bigs to be wildly dynamic, averaging double-doubles all the time, although Jalen Withers has done it nearly in both games so far this season, one of the other things that Carolina has is a young man in Jalen Washington who, from his own mouth, is fully healthy and go now, ready for it. And so, Pack, one of the other observations you shared with me is you're not certain yet that Carolina has quite figured out or has quite started utilizing Jay Wash's best skill set. Give us your thoughts on that. Unpack it.
Yeah, I would, first of all, be really curious what some of the listeners are thinking. So definitely, I want you guys to share your comments. Maybe we can get some discourse going tomorrow on your thoughts on this. But
Some
I think,
discourse on the Discord, maybe.
ooh, I like it. Yeah,
Let's go.
discourse on the Discord. That's kind of a tongue twister there.
It is.
Um,
I apologize to everyone. My fault.
so I think here's the thing. I'm not really knocking the staff, because the more I think about it, it's kind of tough when you look at it. Like our front court is so different. Like none of their skill sets are even comparable. They're not similar at all. Jay Wash is a stretch guy, and Jay Withers can shoot a little bit, but he's really an athlete first and foremost.
Yep.
Vin Allen Lubin's like a second chance cleanup guy, and so
With go gadget like Stretch Armstrong arms, man, it's wild.
Yeah. So I guess I'm saying this, realizing this is a challenge. It's going to be something for the staff to figure out.
And their teammates. Let me add that.
And their teammates, yeah, 100%. But I think there's more we can do to unlock Jay Wash's potential, and I think it's kind of almost key for us to do that, because if we don't, then we're kind of half relying on him to be like more of an old school back to the basket post player. And the thing is like we've talked about this a bunch coming into the season, and Hubert Davis has even gone as far as saying he thinks that Jalen Washington is the best shooting big man in the country. We need to highlight that. I mean, if that's truly the case, we need to make that a lot more of a highlight in our offense, because I just don't see us running a whole lot of pick and pop stuff for him and things to get him open to for him to take advantage of that. And where I think it would be key, I mean, if he really can do that and he shows that he can do that, we need to do it, because it totally changes the way teams are going to guard our guards, and they're going to guard ball screens. And if Jalen Washington is, highlighting his skill set, and the scheme is highlighting his skill set, and the players are recognizing that, well, the only good can come from that, as long as he's capitalizing on it, because it's going to open up things for our guards. It's going to open up things for everybody else. And a popping big man that can shoot, that means there's a wide open paint. So to me, it just seems like it's a no-brainer to highlight more of that. Yeah. And we haven't done that yet. And like I said, I recognize that, they may be trying to scheme things more for our guards and kind of keep the big role kind of something more simplified, because everybody's skill set is different. But the reality is, I think we need to play differently when Jalen Washington is on the court versus when Vin Allen Lubin is. So I just hope to see us do more to accent Jalen Washington's game.
And the more the coaching staff, and truthfully the players, like I think the players are going to be able to know some of those nuances of how do we interact differently when different bigs are in the game. But the more Carolina is able to get that figured out and quickly, that is taking steps toward whatever that ceiling is that you talked about, Pac. And by the way, is going to be miserable for opposition. Like, what big are we guarding, and how are they playing different, and what do I got to do? It's the difference in, like, I made a football reference earlier. So let's say the difference in, I'll go back to that crazy good USC team, the difference in Reggie Bush and Lendale White, right? Like thunder and lightning. And so when you've got to reckon with all of that, it's got to be wild for the opposition and for their defense. I think the other thing here is, Pac, as you've kind of alluded to and said, you're not advocating for Carolina to go all in on, like, let's focus on the bigs and let's do all this, because it would be silly. It would be coaching malfeasance of this coaching staff to get away from utilizing the guards as their bread and butter and the first and last skill set for this team. But as you so wisely said, in order for Carolina to be complementary enough to put the guards in a position where their best stuff is being used, because there's at least some level of true attention having to be played to whoever's playing the 4 and the 5, Carolina's got to keep working to get this figured out. And I don't think we're saying that they've done poorly or it's been bad. It's just that, again, as we talked about with Cade Tyson, we're only 2 games into this thing, plus the exhibitions. And so there really is a steep learning curve. Part of that is for Jay Wash, but also because of the multiplicity of skill sets in the front court. And so there's a lot to work with. And again, as a reminder, that this game, and this is what Mark Campbell said on our post game on Friday night, this game is not about November. This game is about March. And so just like a good Roy Williams team would be, what are these stepping stones that we're taking right now to figure out who we're going to be in ACC play, who we're going to be by the ACC tournament and the NCAA tournament. And that is where we get to enjoy this ride in this journey. So everyone sit back and watch it unfold. Pack, what else do you have to say on all that?
I think like a really good example to kind of put it all into perspective. Think about the way, and I'm not comparing these players necessarily, but, Mark Few really kind of broke the mold and did some great things with Chet on the perimeter when he had him. And it wasn't what he did all the time, but Chet could go out there and knock a 3 or 2 down, every game. And what it did for their offense was huge, and it just opens things up. It opened things up for Jalen Suggs and that group. They were really good. And I think it could be similar for us. And I'm not saying Jalen Washington is Chet Holmgren.
Sure.
But I'm saying we can highlight some of that stuff that he does well, or even decoy it, open things up for our guards some more. And I do think, I'm not saying it's a major concern like you pointed to. I think we could see more of it moving forward. I would really like to see us put Jay Wash in a position to succeed, but also to allow the other 4 guards some other areas to succeed as well by opening that paint up some more.
I'm also very glad that Jalen Washington is not Chet Holmgren right now, because he's on the shelf for a while, and I don't want to see that from Jay Wash. So T's and P's to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Pack. There we go, man. That's a fun conversation today. Getting kind of your first take in the regular season, right? Like that, which is super fun to be able to do. Folks, we'll get to see more of this unpacked on Friday at American. It'll have been a week since Kansas, but make sure you see this American game, because then it's another week before Carolina plays at Hawaii, which will actually be over a week, because by the time they tip on the East Coast, it's already going to be Saturday. And so go ahead and take all your naps right now and start getting that caffeine in you. Folks, what a fun show today. Thanks so much for being here. If you haven't subscribed to Locked On Tar Heels on video and audio, make sure you do that so that you don't miss any of this great content. We love getting to do this with you every day, and we thank you for being here with us. But make sure you don't miss it. Subscribe to the show. It's a great thing to do. We're trying to go 10,000 YouTube subscribers in the first 3 years of the show, and we're well on our way. But if you have not yet subscribed, I'm making a direct ask to you to do that right now. Thank you for joining us in that. If you're not part of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, man, it's a great place to be. It's kind of like a message board, but it's just quick messages all the time. It's safe and healthy and a lot of fun. I really tried to curate a place that is not daunting or scary for people. It's a great, healthy place to be. It's free to join. Links in the show notes. Also, if you want to go even deeper, join the Locked On Tar Heels Insider Program, where you get to text directly one-on-one with me. You get free access to all of my stats and charts and data. Super helpful for you as you follow along with the Tar Heels. You want to know where RJ ranks in a whole bunch of different stats in Carolina history? It's all right there. Go check it all out for free when you join the Locked On Tar Heels Insiders. Gang, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We're going to be right back again tomorrow with Coach Rob joining me as he does every Thursday. But until then,
peace.